wish I wasn't actually here today, but we're here again in solidarity for the struggle. And I've called for action from the very beginning. We've all called for actions to be taken from the very beginning when the coup started on the 1st of February last year. And we called for sanctions, and we called for strategic courage of our governments and governments around the world when dealing with the military junta in Myanmar. And it's over a year later and we're still here. We're still standing here, still standing in solidarity with the people who are fighting for their lives, who are losing their lives in Myanmar. And the military junta is still in power. It's still killing people. It's still imprisoning people. It's still detaining activists. But you are still here fighting with them, and we're not going to give up. There's also been a change of government at the federal level, a new Labor government. As you know, I'm a member of the Labor Party and part of the new Albanese Labor government. And you know that Penny Wong, who's our Foreign Minister, has already signalled she's looking at new targeted sanctions against the military leadership and the junta. She's also now in Asia, in Southeast Asia, meeting with many different ASEAN countries and raising Myanmar in those meetings as well in Southeast Asia. That's important. Every little bit of action actually helps. What's also important, and I've made a note of this, of course, she's indicated that it's important that we help and make a case for Sean Turnell. We all are concerned for Sean Turnell, that's true. But we're also all concerned for the families and the friends of over 2,000 people who have been killed by the military junta. Over 14,000 people who have been arrested as political prisoners. The 1 million people who have been displaced, and the hundreds of thousands who are still every day putting their lives at risk, fighting for their democracy and the rights that we here in Australia, frankly, sometimes we take for granted. The right to freely express yourself, to elect your leaders, a free press, freedom of speech. These are things sometimes we take for granted, but the people in Myanmar are fighting and losing their lives for every day, for those principles. That's courage, that's real bravery. The least that we can do, especially me as a Member of Parliament, is to continue to work and fight with you in solidarity for their struggle and do everything we can through the power of our government here in Australia, but in our international relations to support that struggle in Myanmar. So today our message and my message to you is that we are united with you, we are listening, we are going to take actions, and it is our responsibility, as I've always said, as a democratic nation here in Australia, to stand up for those who are fighting on that front line of democracy. Because the people in Myanmar are the ones who are on the front line in the fight for democracy around the world. We've seen all what's happening in Ukraine, we've seen what's happening in other countries where authoritarian regimes take over, invade, kill, deny rights of people. Well, the people in Myanmar have been fighting that front line for over a year. In fact, for decades. We know that, historically. So we will continue the fight with you. I will continue to be alongside you in that fight, in solidarity with you. And to do that effectively, of course, there's the importance of imposing sanctions on those leaders of the military junta. And we also have to provide aid and assistance, funding, development aid, not just development aid, emergency aid, to assist the people who are suffering in Myanmar, but also the democracy movement, the activists. Now, increasing that aid is a bit more complicated because we want to make sure that it doesn't go to the government, to the military junta. They're not a legitimate government, but unfortunately they have actually got their claws into some of the departments, and where some of the aid is flowing from international donors, they take it. We don't want that. So we're really working hard, and I know I've been speaking to our people in the Foreign Affairs about how we can channel that aid directly to the people in Myanmar who need it and not to the government. So the groups that we need to go to, the NGOs, that can get it across the border to the people who need it. That's important. So we've increased our aid, and I'll be talking to our Foreign Minister as well about our commitments ongoing as far as aid goes, particularly across that Thai border, where some of the groups can actually channel it to where it's needed and away from the military junta. I've met so many of you here I've met over the last year, and I know how much you're suffering, how much you're feeling pain because your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your aunties, your daughters, your sons, your family, your friends in Myanmar are dying and suffering every day in that persecution. And it is great courage that they have, but you also have courage. It's so difficult to go through what you're going through in worrying and not knowing what's going to happen every day, losing contact. So I want to applaud your courage and to keep fighting, and I'll stand with you in that fight, because your courage is a great inspiration to all of us in what you're doing. We will continue to fight together and in solidarity for the people of Myanmar.